Yeah, it's just a total hobby. It's just a project I'm kind of working on. Yeah,
love it.
The Street Epistemology.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not selling anything.
What is the origin of the word epistemology?
Epistemology is the study of how we come to know things, or like why we believe the things we believe.
Got it.
Sort of the source of our worldview,
Yes.
if you will.
I think it's fascinating.
It is fascinating, and that's why I love it so much.
Yes.
That's why I'm out here.
I think it's great.
Cool.
In fact, I was just thinking, as I was walking, I was thinking about a relative of mine who's got a real narrow view of life. And he doesn't have the skills to back up his view.
Right.
And I was thinking that's one of the reasons I don't like spending time with him, because
Sure.
you can't get into a conversation with him without him feeling very threatened.
It's so important to be able to articulate why you believe
Yes.
something, and so seldom are people asked these types of questions
I agree.
to get them get the gears turning.
Yes.
You know, to kind of understand why they believe it.
I'm
So
totally
Valerie,
on
can we? Is there something, preferably something that sort of has great influence in your life, maybe even on a daily basis, that you believe in?
Yes. I am an atheist.
Okay.
I believe there is no God.
Okay.
And I have held that belief for since my early 20s, and I am 65.
Okay. That's interesting. On a scale of 0 to 100, with 0 being God exists, He is the God that everybody describes, and on and on and on, to 100, where you're 100 would be 100% confidence that
Right.
there are no gods. Is it any specific God, or just no gods at all? Okay.
No God the way the Christians believe. Anyway, that.
Okay. Sure.
But no higher power that has brought us into this world or is in charge, omniscient.
Sure.
None of that.
None
So I
of
guess any God.
Okay, sure. So
Yeah.
so 100 would be there are no gods.
Right.
So like you're 100% confident that there are no gods, no doubt in your mind that there are no gods, and so forth. So where on that scale do you think you might lie?
I'm going to say for myself 100%.
Okay.
God has not made himself present in my life for me to attach any belief to him, her, it.
Okay.
However, I have a lot of friends who are real believers, and when they say to me, "Can I pray for you?" my answer is always, if your God listens to your prayers, absolutely pray for me.
Okay. So
But I don't, so in some ways, by saying that, pray to your God, maybe in some ways I'm opening myself up to the fact that there is a God, but he just doesn't, there's nothing in my life that's ever made me believe that he's out there or looking after me.
interacts with the world. So is it possible then that there is a God that sort of the deist view, where God maybe started everything, but then he kind of like hands off?
Yep.
You know, that he's the reason for the season, he's the reason for everything, but
Then
he doesn't interact and backed
Yes.
off and stuff.
Yes,
Is it more conceivable that God exists than the
Yes.
Jesus?
Yes, because I have worked through this atheism idea for many, many years,
Sure.
and I'm smart enough to know that I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty strong in my belief that.
So let me ask you, if you don't know for sure,
Yeah.
those keywords for sure,
I'm not 100%.
is your 100% confidence justified?
No, it's probably 99%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a more
Yes.
fair.
Because I have thought about my beliefs in the frame that you were just saying. I could think, well, I look at one thing. I think the world is so magnificent.
Sure.
I'm out here walking because nature inspires me. Nature is my God. Nature is spiritual for me. I have spiritual. I'm very spiritual, and nature fills that to me. I don't pray. I don't say, "Oh, look at what God has done." I just get something out of being here and looking
Sure.
at the sky.
And in your mind, a God doesn't need to have created this or be involved in order for all of this to still be beautiful, still be inspiring, still be just an amazing, wonderful experience. I think that's great.
I never actually believed in God even as a little girl. I'm very, my mind, that prefrontal cortex takes over, and it never seemed logical or reasonable to me, even as a little girl.
That's interesting.
And because I went to a Catholic school for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, and even the cute stories about Noah's Ark and Adam and Eve, I was always the one sitting there silently going, yeah, right. Noah got every single animal on that ark. I didn't buy it then.
Sure.
So I was always kind of the one who was thinking deeper. And I just...
Did your parents raise you in any, you went to Catholic school, but how were they towards you?
We didn't have a religious household.
Okay.
There was a crucifix on the wall, but my parents did not talk about God.
Okay.
So I
you think that they subscribed to some version of Christianity, but they just didn't sort of feed it to you?
Exactly.
Right.
I'm sure they both believed in God in some way, but they didn't talk to us about it. And so,
do you think if they had spoke to you more about it, that might, lower, in our example here, the 99, lower it more had they proselytized, spoken to you?
If I had seen God in action as I grew up.
Sure.
I grew up in a household that was very traumatic. My mother was severely mentally ill.
Okay.
My mother was hospitalized time and time again. So I grew up, and my 4 brothers, we grew up in just what I know now to be a traumatic situation.
Sure.
I, as a little girl, prayed the Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, and Hail Mary, Philip. I did that every night as a little girl, even though I wasn't buying it. I thought, okay, I'll do this prayer thing. Well, with my head buried in the pillow at night, and all I prayed for was my mother to get well. That's the only thing. And it never happened. And that was enough as a little girl and adolescent young woman to convince me that your God that you're talking about, who's all powerful, all good, could have done one thing for my family, made my mother better, and he didn't do it? So that is not something I can believe in. I can't believe that that's a good God who allowed such suffering in this family of innocent children, good people who just couldn't catch a break. And come on, God, show me something good, and it never happened, and it didn't happen ever in my father's life as well. But for me it did, because I took a different approach.
Sure.
I said to myself as a young woman, there is goodness in this world in the form of human beings. And I'm going to find human beings to interact with that have this goodness about them that transmits over to me. And I found the light through my own tenacity, my own belief that, okay, there is no God who is going to help me out here. I got to figure out how to find peace and joy. And I went forth as a young woman, a middle-aged woman, now an older woman, just constantly asking myself, where will the light come from today? And it could be making a good meal. It could be petting my dog. It could be playing volleyball at the Y with a bunch of old people. It could be playing pickleball. All of that brings a godlike joy to me.
Now, let me stop you there for just a moment while I take some notes.
What do you do with all this info? Is it just something you think about?
Sure, I'll be glad to pick a... So let me ask you one last question, and then you can ask me anything you want. Had your mother recovered? Had she maybe after the 10th time you prayed or something, wouldn't you know it? She turned for the better, got better, everything's great. She lived a life. Do you what kind of impact do you think that would have had, or do you think you still would have come to the same conclusion that no gods exist?
I think I would have entertain the thought that there was a God.
Uh-huh.
I would have. I think that would have. It was so important to me for my mother to get well.
Is it safe to say that if presented with enough evidence, that you could have taken the God is real approach to life?
I mean, I know for sure that my being an atheist has a great deal to do with the suffering that I witnessed.
Sure.
I had to bear witness to more suffering than a child should ever have. And it was watching my parents suffer, which of course, when you watch your parents suffer as a child, you take on that suffering. I still do that to this day. I take on other people's suffering.
Sure.
I have to be very careful what kind of situations I put myself in, because, you know, I can't be, I could never work with homeless people or in a hospice, because I don't just look at the suffering, it's almost like it embodies me. It's
interesting.
A real,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sort of wear it on your sleeve, so to speak. It becomes me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happened with my mother's illness. I
Interesting.
wasn't just like watching it. I didn't suffer for her. I didn't suffer with her. I suffered as her.
Wow. Interesting.
I recognized what I was doing early, and now I've, you know, done a lot of work on myself and self-awareness and therapy, and I understand that's, I took on her suffering, and I became the embodiment of her suffering, and it's taken a long time to shake that and realize, okay, I have some, I can do this, I can figure out, I can find a path that's going to bring me some joy.
That's, for what it's worth, I think, you know, that your outlook, given all that, is absolutely incredible and very inspiring. I'm sure you're familiar with secular humanism. When you mentioned the human being aspect of it, that's something that they, for one, and then, so we can stop the formal interview there, and you're feel free to ask me any questions you want. To answer your question, what am I doing with this, why am I out here, and so forth, is Street Epistemology is a group that is basically going around doing kind of what I'm doing. It's based on a book by Peter Boghossian, the professor. The name of the book is A Manual for Creating Atheists.
Oh my gosh.
So on the same scale of I actually kind of reversed it this time, but on the scale of 0 to 100, and normally, of course, you meet people who believe in God,
right.
The vast majority of people, and so my scale is like 100 is God exists, and 0 is no gods.
Yes.
With you, I reversed it because of your atheism.
Right.
And so on that 0 to 100 scale, I'm at a 1 or a 2, same place that essentially you are. But again, I just kind of reversed it for whatever reason this time. But basically, the way we describe sort of street epistemology is I just want to put a pebble in someone's shoe. I'm not trying to deconvert them. Right. It'd be very unlikely to have a 5-minute conversation and then all of a sudden, oh, I don't believe in God anymore or anything like that. Right. But it's just to go back to what we were speaking about at the very beginning, just having these healthy conversations with so many people that have never even considered a scale of 0 to 100, or what would increase them on their scale. If they're at a 95, what would get them to 100? If they're at 95, what would get them to 90 or 80 or 50? Right. You know, why do you believe the things you believe? Because of the Bible and things like that. And then you just ask very gentle questions to say, it's called the Socratic method, Socrates.
Okay.
The Socratic method of simply asking questions. I'm not trying to teach you. I'm not trying to.
I know
I'm not trying to speak to you anything. Yeah.
I think it is. Sure. Oh gosh, you have given me hope.
Cool.
For the future.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
I started a group at the Y called Support Through Stories.
Okay.
And I just did it on a whim, sort of. I got permission at the Y, and I have a core group of people, and I facilitate conversation.
So you're gonna love this. This earbud that I have, I'm on a Discord server. Let me see if they're still going. Yeah. So there are about 20 people. They're not listening to me right now because I have it on mute. Yeah. But we are listening to a man named Anthony Mascadabosco, He's out of San Antonio, coincidentally, and I found him through the YouTube, rabbit hole, if you will.
I think what you're doing is like it's not just inspirational, it's so necessary.
So necessary.
In this world.
Yes.
My God, people are so isolated and so alone in their thoughts and worries, and my gosh, we need to give people a platform to just talk like this.
Yes.
Nobody does it. Nobody is given the opportunity, and it's just so sad to me. I have learned that being vulnerable with other people is the way to heal. And I'm all about healing. I call myself a wounded healer.
That's amazing.
You have just you have no idea the difference you've just made in my life.
I love it. That's the coolest thing I've ever heard, honestly, doing this.
It's like,
I'm about to get on here and tell all 20 of these people about our interaction.
I just worry so much that when my journey is over, there's not going to be somebody to take my place to do this, and you're going to take my place.
I'm so glad.
I've been out in a few days because of Christmas stuff, but I talked to your dad before.
Yeah, you're my first YouTube video, Valerie.
Really?
Yeah, I actually put you're a YouTube star, and by star I mean you know like 20 followers and 100 views, but you got to start somewhere, right?
You got to start somewhere, and I tell you, I meant every word I said. That what you're doing is so meaningful.
That's awesome. Do you want to? Can we continue a chat? Can we have a second chat?
Sure.
So I don't know if any of y'all have seen Valerie's first video I did, but Valerie's an atheist who, at first she started off by saying she was 100% confident that no gods exist. By the end of the chat, and just by sort of vocalizing her thoughts, she realized maybe I'm not 100% confident, but rather 99%. Because I think you acknowledge that other people may pray for you, and you said, well, if they believe in their gods, then pray for me, and maybe I'm acknowledging that it's a possibility that some gods exist if I'm saying go ahead and pray for me. So that's kind of what knocked it down from 100 to 99. Is that true?
That is true.
Okay.
I guess I have kind of an immature reason for not believing in God. It all has to do with it just has to do with me seeing something happen that I had wished for, wanted, hoped for, and then to see it come to fruition, and that hasn't taken place in my life. All the good things that happened to me, I believe, are because I made really good choices.
Right.
I found a career in life that I loved, teaching, but I made a lot of missteps along the way. And to me, that was my own fortitude and grit in saying, I'm going to make some changes. Here's the paths I can take. Now, believers would say God put that path in front of you. I understand that. I love nature, and I've sought out nature in a spiritual way. I just coming to a place like this, but I've traveled to beautiful places in this country, and though many times I have looked around and thought, oh my gosh, this is otherworldly, and that thought has come to me. So if I'm in the right situation and the right frame of mind, I will allow myself sometimes to say, just maybe.
Just maybe.
He did. But then when I look at the real circumstances of my life, other people's lives, I think, I think we're on our own here.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of interesting TED Talks.
Yeah.
And I read a lot of brain-based psychological research, and one of the things I wrote in this, it's not a diary or a journal, it's just a little notebook, and occasionally I'll write a Buddhist saying or something that I believe in. And one of them is that I take to heart. It said, don't believe every thought that comes into your head. Thoughts are just thoughts. They're not reality. Because I have a tendency to think the worst about certain situations. Oh my God, what am I gonna do if my husband's cancer comes back? I'm gonna be poor, and
woe is me.
Woe is me. And that's when I have to stop thinking that just because you're thinking about that, it's going to come true.
I want to repeat that. So just because you have a thought about something,
it's not necessarily true.
It's not necessarily. Just because it enters your head doesn't necessarily speak to the truth of the thing. That's interesting. Go forth. I did want to to clear up one thing we mentioned in our first talk, and that was I mentioned the book by Peter that's titled A Manual for Creating Atheists, and I don't want anyone that I'm interviewing thinking that that's my goal.
I don't.
You know?
I don't at all.
And I don't think you thought that.
Nope.
But the dozens and dozens of people that have watched the YouTube video so far, no, I just don't want them, getting the feeling of that. But what I'm concerned with is sort of Gnosticism, just 100% confidence in something without merit, without you being able to justify it. And so I've used your name and your example of your video with 3 or 4 other videos I've done. I referred to you to say, look, you Christian or 100% confidence. There was an atheist that was 100% confidence. By the end of our talk, we kind of worked it out, and maybe she wasn't by the end of our talk 100% confident anymore. And that's my goal: is to just understand if people have good reasons to believe the things that they do, and not just the 100% confidence is not your devotion to your idea, but whether or not the confidence you have that it's actually true. There's a difference there, I think. Can we go just right over here? I want to see if the audio is better right over here.
And
I want to see if getting away from the traffic lets us.
I had a friend that I taught with for a few years, and she knew I was an atheist. She was a devout religious person.
Go ahead.
She said to me,
Go ahead.
She said to me that she thought I was unique. She said, I know you are an atheist, but you live by very Christian values.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I said,
another teacher friend of yours told you, I know you're an atheist, but you seem to live by Christian values.
Yeah. And I didn't know, I don't know what I responded, except to say, I don't think you need to believe in God to be a good person.
How do you define what a Christian value is? And is it possible? Look at that deer. The deer just ran by us and almost ran us over.
There's nature.
Beautiful.
Beautiful
nature.
Wonder if there's another one. See, that's why I come out here.
Yeah.
Because I think this is the coolest thing. Cause, it's hard explaining yourself to people sometimes, you know? And especially as you get older, you look at yourself and you say, okay, what was this journey all about? Did I make a difference? I don't believe in heaven or hell. I believe that when we die, so I believe we have to do I believe our role in this world is to be kind to others. I mean, to me, that's the meaning of life, is just to give somebody else's life meaning.